first of all, I think I decided on a name for the podcast. And it's kind of unconventional, but I kind of like it. And I think what we're going to end up calling it is the Third Rate Therapy Podcast.
What the?
Right. So, this podcast is going to be like serious topics, deep thought, and then we'll have little video game segments at the end. So, like, we'll cover current events, broader topics, what's bothering me, kind of. Like, we'll talk about a little bit of everything. So,
works for me.
So welcome to the Third Rate Podcast. I'm Blake, aka Blek the Sneck, and this is my co-host.
Nice air pass, dude. I'm sorry, my girlfriend texted me. All right, run it back from the top.
No. I'm keeping this in. Introduce yourself, motherfucker.
Oh, man, that was rough, McGruff. My name's Steve, a.k.a. Coup.
Ooh, oh, my God.
The Poop Scooper.
Yeah, Coup the Poop Scoop. I gave you that name.
Yeah, you did.
How did that even come about?
Because we wanted to change my name from my super shitty name.
Right, but...
And I was like, oh, my normal gamer tag is Coup. And then they're like, well, that's not long. I think you said something to the effect, or you guys mentioned something to the effect, well, that's kind of boring. I was like, well, how about each of you add a word onto it then? And that's kind of what we came to.
Okay. Welcome to the first episode of the Third Rate Podcast. That's what I'm calling it for now. I don't know if it'll change in the future. That's just how it be. How it is. How it is.
I think people are going to need what you're providing with this third-rate therapy.
I agree.
I think this fills the void.
Yeah. Most millennials can't afford therapy. Therefore, hey, guys. So,
I mean, I couldn't even afford therapy. It's like $200 an hour for like a legit psychiatrist. And a lot of people actually need help with their issues. So hopefully we can iron some of that out for them.
I agree. So the first topic that I want to jump into is kind of a, current event. And it's the Area 51 meme.
I've been seeing this all over the place, and I have not looked into it at all.
Okay, so basically, some memes
Teach me a thing, all right?
I will. So, some memes have been circulating where it started out as a post that said, hey, why don't we all storm Area 51? They can't stop us, or something along those lines. They can't stop all of us. So somebody made a petition that you sign that everybody's just going to storm Area 51 on this specific date. And I just think it's people memeing. I don't think there'll be probably like 25 people who take it seriously and go to Area 51, but I honestly can't imagine, especially our generation, storming Area.
It's one of those things where I can definitely see more than 20 people going, though. If it gets enough signatures on there, like let's say, well, I'll just throw out a number. There's 20,000 signatures on there. If even 10% of those people show up, that's a lot of flipping people. Right. And I'm going to say this, they're all going to die.
Sure.
Like it would need to be in the tens of thousands for them to actually not have the munitions to pump these people down. Because on the signs in this area, it says if you trespass, you will be shot. And I think it also says without warning.
Right.
So it's not like they're going to be storming the gates very effectively.
Right. So apparently more than 1 million people have RSVP'd to this Facebook Storm Area 51.
Holy crap, that's a lot.
Right. And at that point, all right, let's just play devil's advocate. 1 million people
Yeah.
show up. You really think, like, does the government just nuke them or something? Like, what happens?
That would be an international atrocity. And it would get immense press. They would actually have to acquiesce to a certain extent where they're going to have to basically disperse the crowd. They might just come out in like riot gear. I'm sure they have riot gear on stock. And then just like
people?
tear gas. I mean, no.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what I think.
But that doesn't mean they can't bring stuff from other bases really quick.
Here's what I think will happen. I think they've been given enough time where they just move anything important out of Area 51. And first of all, I don't think there is anything important in Area 51 because of all the rumors. Like, I doubt the government keeps anything important on that base just because of how legendary it is. So I think they'll actually just open up the base and be like, "Oh, nothing's here. Go home." You know. I don't think anything's gonna come of this meme.
Probably about 97% of the people who sign this are memeing.
Yeah.
And even the people that live in the area, they'll probably like talk about going because like obviously the people that live close by, they actually might know some of these people that are memeing. So they could just be like, "Oh, hey man, are we gonna do it? Yeah, we're gonna do it." And it's like, you know, I dare you to jump. Oh, you first, ready? We'll do it on the count of 3. 1, 2, and then your idiot friend jumps.
And they get shot in the head. Yeah.
Well, you know, I was trying to, you know, skirt around the bush there, but yeah.
I feel like if the government were to take action, they would get unrelentless hate from UN.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think anything violent will happen.
Like I said, I think it's riot type stuff at best, if they even respond.
I don't really have a segue into this next topic because
Why not?
Because it's
Hold on.
It's a very random topic.
And that wasn't?
Oh well, it was, but
less random.
All right, yeah. It is less random than the Area 51 thing, but this is random in the sense of like, it's not probably a topic you're expecting because I've known you for how long now?
Too long.
Yeah,
since season 3. So that's how I go off.
That's how you
years
go.
Is that?
Season 3 of League of Legends. That's how long.
So that's what, 5 years, 6 years now?
Yeah,
5.5 years.
And I've never really heard you talk about music. So I'm curious as to what kind of music you listen to, what's some of your favorite artists, you know, like a get to know the characters behind the podcast kind of thing.
Well, I actually listen to a metric ass ton of different stuff. Like my thumbs up playlist, which is the things that I thumbs up obviously across all my different stations, can have anything from, you know, 1930s swing to reggaeton, hip hop, R&B, classic rock, arena rock. It has some screamo. I have some country, some boy band shit. Like I have a lot of really weird stuff. I have a pretty eclectic taste in music, but some of the stuff that I've heard on your guys' bot, I feel like you have to be memeing to appreciate that as actual music.
Oh yeah, for sure. Everything that I play in my Discord is almost strictly meme music, just because constantly putting in the music I listen to gets strenuous to normal people. Because I listen to a lot of hardcore, metalcore, thrasher, punk shit. So constant screaming really does a number on people's like mood. It doesn't affect me because I've been listening to it since I was a wee little lad. Plus, it's funny, man. I just named my League of Legends account after a meme song, so that's...
Yes, yes, you certainly did.
But I'm kind of in the same camp. I like every genre of music. I can give you top picks for those genres. Like I'm not huge into country, but like The Devil Went Down to Georgia is my number one country song. Because Fiddles are 10 out of 10.
You would like a lot of bluegrass then. Bluegrass has a lot of
Yeah,
fiddle.
yeah, I do like bluegrass. And my dad lives in a very bluegrass heavy town, so I've always appreciated it for what it is. My all-time favorite band is the Used. Been listening to them since middle school. I don't think that band can do wrong musically. But what are some of your top, like, most listened to artists or bands?
The Muse, Foo Fighters. Those are probably two of my favorite bands. And then like the next favorite band is called Two Cellos, and as you can imagine, they
It's two
play
cellos. Yeah, I've
two
actually heard
cellos.
of them.
But yeah, most people haven't, and they do like a lot of cover music. So like they'll cover popular songs, or they'll actually perform like classical music. So like when I'm doing like a study move or I'm reading patch notes, I like to listen to like the piano guys, the Brooklyn duo, Two Cellos, and it helps me absorb information.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually have a soft spot for classical music. My favorite composer is Bach. He's the best. He's the bomb.com. I seriously, he's like such a big influence on how I play piano.
You do a piano move?
Yeah, I do a piano move. I'm not formally taught. It's just like kind of freeform. But the way his tempo goes is usually how my songs end up sounding, which is very like build up and loud, I guess. And then goes. There's technical terms for these things. I'm sorry, like music majors and stuff like that. If I'm just butchering everything, and it's like, why don't you call it virtuoso 9/4 tempo? Yes, move.
The music theory purists out there just like tuned out for those 10 seconds.
Exactly. Oh, it's great. What do you listen to when you want to get pumped? Like you're going to the gym, you're getting fucking torqued.
Well, I don't do this often anymore, but when I did, I had like a subset of music that I like to listen to. Typically, it was like the stuff I used when I would warm up for football. A lot of the like kickoff songs that you hear in the National Football League are all like pump up music. So I tend to go after stuff like that. So like Crazy Train, Trick Daddy, Let's Go, just like all kinds of stuff like that, just like high tempo with a good beat music that just like made me like want to jump up and down. So like that's kind of what I would do. I wouldn't like really get anything other than that.
Right. For me, my natural habitat of heavy music is just the best at the gym. I'll put on some like Wage War, some Trying the Martyrs, and just be in the zone. But that actually leads into the next topic of what is motivation to you? What makes you motivated? Because I have been wanting to do a lot more with myself, including health wise, and like going to the gym, cooking, cleaning, like being more proactive in my health. Third rate therapy. But for sure, like what gets you motivated? Because I am really hard to motivate.
For me, my motivation is like things that I set. Like I actually have a stupid sheet where I have like short-term goals and long-term goals because I'm incredibly visual. So I like to see things that as I accomplish these things, I'm like lining them out or scratching them out or like painting it red, whatever I so choose. But like to see progress during my goals is what keeps me motivated. If there's no progress, I just like shut down and like go like hardcore depressed mode, like, oh, I fucking suck, I can't do this. But if I'm able to set appropriate short-term goals, they continue to drive me towards the long-term goals. Like for example, when I was bulking up for football, I was like, okay, by next year, I need to put on 5 pounds. Okay, how am I going to do this? I'm going to consume 4,000 calories a day, and I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. And then like I would have like individual trackers for those specific things. So for me, it's progress. If I'm not actually seeing progress, I'm not going to stay motivated. And I can't see it in like these like stupid snaps and selfies. For one, I don't like doing that. I'm a math and science guy. I like numbers. I like trackers and things of that nature. So that's how I stay motivated, is by constantly achieving something.
Gotcha. Yeah, I kind of understand that. I do that at work. I have a whiteboard, and my whiteboard looks like a fucking mad scientist had a field day and just wrote a bunch of random shit. I have tick boxes upon tick boxes of what I need to accomplish and what I need to complete. Like all of my logic I write down on it and stuff, and that's how I do stuff at work. But like home is kind of different from me. I don't have, I guess, a whiteboard. Maybe I should get a whiteboard. Problem solved.
I do have a whiteboard at home, but I leave it for my budget.
Right.
So like I will write down, oh, I spent this much on gas and this much on rent and
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. But it, like, for me, I'm visual. Well, not everybody's visual, so like that,
Right.
it's not going to work for them. They need other ways to interact with,
Right.
achieving things and staying motivated.
For me, I'm finally like being financially responsible. It took 25 long years of my life to realize that I don't need to order DoorDash every day.
Dude, I was trying to get you on that hype train for like 3 weeks, and then I gave up.
I know. But now I'm being more financially responsible and putting away money, taking care of my debt and stuff like that. So like financially, I'm doing great, and I motivated myself financially to do these things. But I still like I talked to you about it, but obviously whoever's listening doesn't know. I'm changing my sleep schedule so that I am more proactive with my time because it seemed like I would just get home from work and feel blah, just sit on my computer and do computer things. So instead, I will limit myself to playing games and stuff up until like I want to say 10, 11 p.m. and then I go to bed and then I wake up to do this podcast, BT Dubs, at 2 or 3 a.m. And then after the podcast, I'm gonna start going to the gym, and then I'll shower and get ready for work, and then take a small nap. I feel like that'll be more proactive with time, and I don't feel like I'm asleep or groggy or like tired or fatigued because I'm kind of like spacing out my sleep, which I never really thought about until recently.
As far as like setting it as smaller doses of sleep, as long as you're achieving REM during these doses, or these periods, then it should be fine. So like if you take, I think was it like 2.5 hours or something, it's somewhere around 2 hours before the average person achieves REM. But if you do that 4 times a day, you're going to be incredibly rested.
Right.
Even if it's only 3 hours at a time.
Right. Well, from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is plenty of time, and from 3 or 4 a.m. till 7 a.m. So I feel like that's plenty of time. So both slumbers do me a rest good.
Yeah, just go for the hardcore 7-hour
Right.
one swing.
Yeah, I just about motivation again, bringing it back to the topic. I'm extremely hard to motivate though. Like I still don't want to go to the gym. I do. I really want to go to the gym, but I find myself like it's not like a I'll do it tomorrow thing. It's not like I'm procrastinating it or like telling myself, oh, there's always tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Instead, I'm just saying like, I'm not doing that, which I need to stop doing because, or
like the thing is what the benefit is, but it's such a long-term benefit that you're hardly ever going to feel something for it. You have to tie it to something.
right.
So for when people go to the gym and they're looking for a particular goal, it's tied to that measure, but in reality the overarching goal is to be more healthy, right? Because that's
Right.
what you're targeting. But that is such a long-term, like almost unobtainable goal, like in the short term, that it can be difficult for you to get going, even if you're like, let's say you're 2 weeks into this and you've been going every day, excluding rest days and etc. If you aren't starting to feel healthy and you're not seeing any like noticeable results, it may discourage you from continuing to go because you're like, well, shit, I could be, platinum 1 if I was playing League during all this time. Well, obviously not us, but
Right.
like you could like shift that goal into something that you want to prioritize more, but you're sacrificing in order to go to the gym.
Right. And it seems that something that does motivate me, which is weird, and I'll get into why it's weird later, is girls. Whenever I.
Yeah, that's super weird.
No. I'll explain why it's weird. I haven't really talked about, you know, like my, I guess, sexuality or like how I operate, which is kind of a hot topic for a lot of things going on right now. And I've never really cared to like break it down to anybody or explain it. But like whenever I find somebody attractive, I tend to be motivated. And I don't know, because I'm super weird about relationships and love and attraction and stuff. Because I guess there's a term for it. I don't care to know the term, but I'm not attracted to most people. Like you see a hot girl, you're like, oh damn, I wanna mate with that, or like,
Ooh, yeah.
yeah. But like for me, I'm like, yeah, she's nice looking. That's cool. Like I don't know, cause I don't know how to explain it well.
So the physical attraction isn't like immediate for you,
Yes.
where it can be for other people. Like if I see a dime walking down the street, if I'm not like looking at my phone or focused on something else, I usually will like do the double take. Like, damn, am I actually seeing this? She's fucking hot. Like,
Right.
so like I'm getting that instant reaction typically, but you're saying you don't.
Yeah, and it gets kind of awkward for me because people like show me a picture of an Instagram model or something, and that's cool. Like I have a certain like subset of things that I find attractive in people, but most of them aren't like physical. There are physical attributes that I find attractive and whatever, but I'm not attracted to the person until I really understand them, which is weird for most people, I guess. I always thought it was normal because I don't know anything else except for that. But what do you think about that? Like having to get to know somebody to be attracted to them?
For me, that's like if I want to pursue that individual in a dating relationship. Attraction for me is mostly physical, and then like I grow to appreciate the person. Like I would use a separate term. Obviously, somebody with intellect and somebody that I can have a conversation with. That is a factor in determining like, do I want to take the next step with this individual, or am I just shagging?
Right.
So
But for
for
me, I haven't slept with anybody that we didn't have common interests and stuff like that. Like I even like the girls that I'm like, I'm not gonna date this person, but it would be nice to sleep with them. They're typically my kind of person. Before having these conversations, I didn't have that like I want to sleep with them. It's weird, right?
I think it's just a product of like where your life is taking you. Like I was in the service, right? So we kind of have a reputation for gallivanting around and trying to sleep with a bunch of women, and that's real life. That's what we did. Like when we would pull in the ports, we would go and we would just hook up city, and we would try to like catch them all, so to speak. Like we would be going out there trying to just get whatever we could get.
Get all the STDs.
Yeah, double wrap, triple wrap, whatever you got to do, get her done. Right? And obviously, you were more selective. So that's why I think you have like more stipulations before you will sleep with someone. It's just like somebody that won't sleep with someone until they're married, right? They have a stipulation where they're like, okay, I need to be physically attracted to this person, and I need to like fall in love with them, and then want to spend the rest of my life with them, and then after that, maybe we can have sex. You know, so I think it's just different for different people. In today's culture, your stance is definitely abnormal. We're in a very casual relationship style culture where people are pretty much just fucking like rabbits.
Yeah, and I fucking
And
hate it. To be honest, the
I
worst.
I don't like it either, but having done it, I can't like,
Word. And like
you know what I'm saying?
I've had one night stands hooked up with girls before, but like I just fucking hate it. There's no other way to put it. Like I'm not bashing anybody. Like you do you. If you like, I have sex worker friends. Like I'm super into like explore your sexuality, but for me, like I feel like girls assume too much of me when I talk to them or whatever, or like I'm trying to flirt with them, and it's literally just me being nice. And so they're just like, "Why don't you make a move on me or whatever?" And I'm like, "Cause I'm not. Oh, I'm not like that." It's
But so
so.
many of the interactions they have
I know,
are,
like 90% of the dudes they talk to want to sleep with them, and then they get confused when I'm like, they mistake it for awkwardness, which is really weird for me because I don't think I'm that awkward in person. You know, I can hold regular conversations fine. It's no big deal. But people mistake it for awkwardness because they think I'm flirting with them or that I'm trying to like. And I have an anecdote to share. They think that I'm trying to sleep with them or be casual with them. I have friend zone people all the time. It's terrible. But so I have this story, and I'm not going to use names. I'm gonna make up a name. There's this girl. Her name is Jenna. For shits and giggles, her name is Jenna. And
Jameson?
yeah, Jenna Jameson.
Oh
And,
damn, look at you.
and so we've been friends for a really long time. I think even before I met you, we were heavy into the cosplay scene. We had a similar cosplay group, like our characters meshed, and we got to talking. And like, I've always been super supportive of her, and like, we always talk to each other about problems and shit. And then, I don't know, like, one day we were just talking about relationships and stuff, and I was saying how, like, I am about shit. And, you know, she goes, "Oh, yeah, same. I'm in, like, a casual thing. We're not really dating, blah, 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 blah." She's like, "I want to go on real dates and this, that, and this." And I just asked her, I was like, "Do you want to go on a date with me?" He was just like, "Oh, no, 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 you're not my type." And I think she felt like she hurt my feelings or something because she hasn't like reached out to me since. And I'm just
Hmm.
like, I was asking like in a not romantic way, but she doesn't
Yeah.
know that because it's super weird to ask somebody on a date and not like want to fuck them. And I don't know. It's just humorous for me. I have to laugh it off because it sucks that those misunderstandings happen.
You were more looking for clarification, but
Yes.
so many people ask that question in the normal way. Well, I want normal in air quotes, right? And when you ask somebody, "Do you want to go on a date with me?" you are literally meaning, "I would like to pursue a romantic relationship
Yes.
with you, or a semi-romantic relationship with you, and get to know you."
Right.
Like,
And
yeah,
that's how she took it, for sure.
that's what that bag. Well, it has connotation with it in
Right.
today's society, but what you meant is like, wait, I'm really confused. Are you trying to do the date move with me, or
Yeah, that's literally.
what?
I was literally asking if she was hinting at wanting to go on a date with me because I'm completely oblivious all the time. So, it's awkward, yes, but I don't feel like I'm being awkward. I feel like other people are being awkward to me because it's like I just want to be your friend, man, and like no offense, but I'm not like trying to smash. And I never have. And like, she's an attractive girl. She has fans and stuff. She's super into cosplay. And like, for me to like ruin our friend, not ruin, like, I could still talk to her and stuff. But like, to make our friendship awkward by asking that question is just like so, like, such a blunder. And I hate it. 0
Yeah,
out of 10.
maybe preface it with, this isn't a romantic inquiry. This is a curious inquiry to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying inquiry, and then ask the question.
Right, but that's
As if that's not confusing enough.
that's still awkward though.
Yeah, it's super awkward. But the thing is, you can either just ignore it and act like it didn't happen,
That's what I'm
and
doing.
then maybe she feels like, I don't know. It feels like you are in one of those points of no return,
Right.
where
So,
you're going to lose the quality of the relationship you had before because of this misunderstanding. And even if you come to her and you try to explain it, it's a 50-50 shot whether she's going to accept that explanation or she's going to think, oh, he's still awkward and he's just trying to cover for it.
or
So,
maybe she'll watch this podcast and then be
or
like,
or listen to it even.
well, that's what I meant.
2 hours later.
What about Tidycats?
I've never heard of Tidycats.
That was like the mystery sponsor that people thought Travis was going to get sponsored by, and it turned out to be Alienware.
Why did people think Tidycats?
I don't know. Somebody mentioned it during one, and then it's, you know how Twitch is.
Alright, well,
Memed after meme.
speaking of Travis Gafford, let's get into our League of Legends segment. So if you're not into League of Legends or video games in generals, you can tune out now. Goodbye. Have a nice day. But for
Now,
those
there will
of
be
you,
timestamps that you can like skip over this
yeah.
particular section, or if you want to rehash or go to another.
Right.
So.
I will include timestamps, but I'm saving video game talk for the end because I understand that everybody who listens to podcasts isn't necessarily here for video games. So the last
Lame.
segment is going to be this League of Legends bit, and we may add more gaming-related segments at the end, or even just other segments at the end. But for now, it's League talk. So we got into a kind of argument about the state of TSM, and I want to have that conversation here on the podcast.
You were bringing up some interesting points, and I was wanting to do devil's advocate, and counterpoint and counterpunch kind of thing. But you did it during my drive move, so I was like, I can't respond.
Yep. So I think it started off with me saying that Regi should just sell TSM to somebody else because TSM has not looked, to form versus international and even lately regular NA competition. And I think that's largely due because of their inability to bring on new talent and foster it, which is super toxic. What do you think?
There is a right way to foster a winning culture, and there's the wrong way to do it. Now, the only reason it worked for so long for Regi, which you happen to mention, is they had the best talents in NA at the time, so they were able to overcome the toxic environment, and win. But as soon as that isn't the case, then this fabric, it just tatters. Now, I'm going to make a couple parallels to modern sports where winning culture is done right. We had the New England Patriots.
True.
Obviously, they've been winning championships. In these last 2 decades, they've gone to all these conference titles. I'm not going to bring up the numbers because most people won't care. Real Madrid. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about Deflate or Spygate or, any of that nonsense. Don't, tampering, PEDs.
I'm just memeing.
But Real Madrid, constantly in La Liga, is at the top. Usually goes to the Champions League and takes it. So that's international soccer. Then you go to basketball, and a great winning culture is the Golden State Warriors, and nobody's above the team, right? It's all these things where they're all working together and winning championships, but no single person is above the team or the team goal.
Yep.
Now, here, that's the difference in TSM. The mid laner is always above the goal. He's always the untouchable one. Like you mentioned yourself, Bjergson, even though he's a great player, he's never gonna get admonished. He's never gonna be the guy that they're pointing at and looking to and saying, "Well, the reason we're not winning is you." It's always gonna be the pieces around him.
Right.
And if you actually want to win forever, you need to be willing to move anybody.
Yeah.
And you will see that in all the other sports. They moved Kevin Durant from Golden State. They lost, they lose people all the time, right? And then the Patriots lose people literally every single year and still make it to the championship. The Real Madrid guys, they lose people all the time. They lose them to the competition. They lose them to Barcelona. They lose them to Rotterdam. They lose them to pretty much everybody. But you always have to have like this next man up mentality. No single piece is above the team, and that's what's missing in TSM, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. When they won, they had, like Hanser, Dyrus, Double Lift, Svenskeren, Smoothie, and these were all considered top 3 in their roles at the time. Like Dyrus was the top laner. Double Lift is obviously the ADC. All these pieces surrounding Bjergson. If you surround Bjergson with star power, they're going to perform. If you surround Bjergson with Grig, yikes. Like, that's all I can say is it's not a healthy environment for new talent because Bjergson's on such a higher level than everybody else that he's not going to be coaching you. He'll give you words of encouragement. He'll tell you what you need to do. His method does not work for, I want to say, like 90% of at least North America players. I'm sure his method works great in Korea. But it's just such like a struggle bus for people on that team because they're not getting the resources or like the nurturing nature that like C9 has, where Reaperd just says, "You're an idiot. It's fine. Just run it down." I really.
But as much of a meme as that is, people learn by making mistakes. So
Yeah.
There's like a kernel of genius in everything that he says that sounds memey.
Yeah, I respect Reaperd so much.
Because he's obviously done it. Like, the track record's there. Like, people have been coming in through C9, getting on Academy. He identifies that hey, this kid's pretty good. Brings them on the stage a couple times, gets his feet wet, sends them back down, brings them back up, sends them back down. He moves these pieces around, and everybody else is, like, flipping out. But he's just 1,000 IQ. Like, he knows what that person can bring to the greater whole. And that's what makes a good talent evaluator and a good coach.
Yeah.
And you have to have that. And part of the problem is this esport is so young that there's not enough, for one, just raw talent in some of these places and the motivation to be a pro, and then the infrastructure's not there. Most of these coaches are like player coaches or has-beens or analysts turn coaches. They just don't have the experience, right? Any coach in any league is going to tell you that experience is going to trump intelligence.
Right.
Over the course of a career. Experience is always going to be better. So there's just not enough of it around to really make tremendous strides in player development, to really, always be, going to a farm system. There's not really, like, if you go to China, they have an entire league. Like, I think it's a 16-team LDL, and like superstars are born there, and then they get brought up into the LPL. Very rarely, except for on C9, because that's a great model organization for player development, do you see people coming from the academy team onto the main stage and succeeding? So
C9 has brought even just Kumo and Blabber to the forefront. Not replacing, but swapping out Licorice, who was another player that they brought in. Like, they're just pumping out talent, and it's crazy. And they identify the strengths of these players, and they harp on it. They, like, play it like a goddamn fiddle because, Blabber and Kumo are aggressive players. They don't care if they die. They just want to make the plays and deal as much damage as they can. So Reaperd is like, hey, why don't we pair these two together and see what happens? And then, bam, they beat TL with Kumo and Blabber. And that's insane.
Which aren't their two best players
right.
in those positions, right?
They're not.
Svenskeren is top jungler in the league. Maybe an argument could be made that Meteos shares that honor with him. And then, Licorice is the best top laner, hands down. Right. I would say Impact is a close second.
Right. And these players, it's Kumo's first time on stage. He's just a little baby. And Reaperd is just like, really developing this kid. The kid has no fear whatsoever because Reaperd is such like a headspace coach. He really is. He's just like, it's fine if you guys can make mistakes, just don't lose your head. And like all of these pre-game speeches he gives are like literally 15 seconds of, hey, you guys aren't the best, but that's fine. You just need to be aggressive, play to your strengths, and
Yep.
he
Play
nails it
inside your
every
comfort
time.
zone.
Yeah, he nails it every time, and it really does produce results. And people always question, like, "Oh, what is C9 doing? What's happening?" And then Reaperd is just like, "I'm 4 million IQ, and I play Kumo." And it's just like a fucking. It's a glorious thing, really, and I wish more teams took part in stuff like that. And like back to TSM, they have Grig and Acadian, and I feel like those players are literally just being choked to death. My guess is that Acadian and Grig are not going to have fruitful careers because of TSM.
Well, Acadian's had a shot already. Like,
Right.
if I remember correctly, he was on Optic before Optic was Optic.
Wasn't he?
He was the Rengar one trick that came into the league. He was a ganking heavy jungler, right?
Right.
The meta changed. It became vision oriented tanks, so he had to pick that stuff up. Now, one of the things about last split is that he was ganking all the time. He was getting lanes ahead, not playing like Sejuani. I realize Sejuani's really strong, but that's not his playstyle. If you want to play Sejuani, stick Grig in. What does Grig do when he's on Sejuani? They win. The problem is they're not using the players for their strengths like we just discussed with C9. They're not saying, they're trying to fit this circle peg into a square, and it's like gigantic circle and tiny little square. You know, like
Right.
you have to be able to match your players. This is like roster 101. You have to be able to get them to work together with their strengths to accomplish a common goal. And if you're not able to ascertain which pieces I need to move in and out without giving away your strategy, then you need to refine your strategy. You know, you need to increase the picks. Like I shouldn't be able to say, oh, Acadian's coming in, he's going to be playing Elise, Jarvan, and Rek'Sai, and that's it, right? You know, like you have to have more tricks in your bag. And that's what, you know, after Rift Rivals, like we just need bigger champions.
Yep.
So, but they did decide, I did see an article, I think it was yesterday afternoon, that Acadian will be the starting jungler for the remainder of the split.
Thank
And
God.
I think that's the right decision.
Yeah.
Because the most success they saw was with those two in the top lane, Broken Blade and Acadian, working together and ironing out the issues. Like it wasn't magical from week 1 last split. It wasn't until about week 5 or 6 that the peasant meme was coming out, and he's like, hey, we finally got it together, and they're smashing kids. And then they had that amazing series in the semifinals.
Right.
So I think that that's a smart play, but it should have been done weeks ago.
Right.
Or you run the 6-man roster with the things that I just mentioned.
Right. And I agree with that. And I just feel like TSM has like a multifaceted problem. Like there's just so many heads of the Hydra that you cut off and more fucking problems arise. Because, you know, just looking at the team at a surface level, you have Bjergson, who is the team captain. And I just feel like Bjergson needs to be a player, not a captain. And the reason I say that is, remember when Bjergson was hailed as like the king of NA? That was a time where he played his lane and he won his lane. And that was all there was to it. There was no captain making decision. I assume he does shot calling and stuff, which, you know, that's up to the players, but I feel like Bjergson has this responsibility on TSM that really hinders him. You know, he has to be the captain. He has to worry about the mental state of the players. He has to coach them essentially. I don't know what TSM's coaching staff does, but it seems like Bjergson is doing their job for them, and that's really hindering his lane experience. Which is just like, again, one of many heads of the Hydra that is the problem with TSM. I believe I mentioned that in our conversation where I said you don't need a captain when you have an entire organization behind you. I don't know. That's just how I feel. I could be wrong.
Well, like some people obviously aren't meant to be leaders. It's not something you can really learn. Like you can get kind of good at it, but you need to be born a leader. It is like ingrained in your DNA to be able to lead men and women to accomplish a goal effectively.
Bjergson was not.
Yeah, I don't feel like he was. Like he's kind of quiet, and like he doesn't like when I listen to like I don't have a large sample size. I don't watch TSM Legends or anything, but when I see the mic checks with him, everything I'm seeing from him, like his body language is really tight, right? And that, you know, it's not very open and inviting. You know, a captain, you need to be kind of personable and inviting. And then his things, like they don't hold any weight behind what he's saying. Like there's no punch to him. There's no what's the word? Urgency. There's no urgency to what he's saying. Like it's like, all right, guys, we got to do this. You know, we got to do that. Right. It's like too casual. It needs to be like, yo, guys, we need to get this in. We need to get this done. We only have 5 weeks left in the split. We still have, you know, these guys on the schedule. This is what we need to do to get this done, and here's how we're going to do it. Now, if you're going to be a captain, that's what you need to do. But to your point, that's not his job. It shouldn't be his job. He should be sitting there and playing the game. Now, if he wants to do that in addition, you know, to be like a polarizing force for the team, that's okay. But he shouldn't be the one to lead the team. The problem is the people above him aren't leaders either. You have Parth, who's almost a carbon copy of Bjergson.
Yep.
As far as like the things I just mentioned. And then who's their other coach that's on stage with them?
I forget his name.
Yeah, I can only think of like 5 of the other coaches right now. But there's another guy out there, and he doesn't seem like an alpha either. And you kind of need an alpha personality in a leadership position.
You need Reaperd.
That's why Double is a pretty good leader. Even though like he smashes people all the time, he does it in the appropriate way.
Right. He and Impact have been squaring up on TL about how the game should be played and stuff, and I think those are conversations that weak, timid people can't have on a team like TSM, where you have Sven, who has the emotional fragility of a 13-year-old girl. I don't think you can have these conversations of like, hey, you were at fault here, here's what you need to improve on, because Sven takes it so personally. I don't know about BB and their supporter or whatever. Team Liquid can have these conversations because it's Peter and Impact, and they're just like, no, you're a fucking idiot. Like, that's just how they operate, you know? I think a point was made from the EU teams when they visited NA, where, you know, they're toxic to each other, and it's only toxic in NA's eyes because we're a bunch of fucking sissies.
Right.
But to them,
what they say is hilarious.
Oh
too.
Yeah, but to them, it's just another day in the office. You know, like it's not something where it's like, hey, you hurt my feelings. They're just like, hey, you played like shit today, and you need to do this to improve. That's it. It's a one and done kind of thing. But I feel
the problem with that is that everybody receives criticism differently, right? And like that should be identified once the team's put together, right? I know this sounds kind of corny, but like people should be writing down on a sheet like how they normally communicate constructive criticism. Like you need to understand how that person's going to receive what you're saying before you say it. Now, the way it works for Peter and Impact is because they've probably, I can almost guarantee you, they've had that discussion. Because there's no way they would be like that from the get-go. Like, you don't just, like, come hard in the paint at somebody and then, oh, shit, that didn't work. You know, like, let me try again. Especially with something like criticism.
Right.
You know, like, it's like a compliment, sure. But with criticism, people, like you mentioned, they can be pretty soft, especially in this country.
Right.
In Europe, that is their culture. You know, the casters are ribbing on them, the players ribbing on each other through Twitter and all these Twitter wars, and like they're backing up all these like memes and bets and like side things, and like it's like a comedy show. You know, like you're watching these guys go at it back and forth, but you don't see any of that in NA because everyone's scared to hurt each other's feelings because they never had a discussion where like, hey, this is how I do things, this is how I do things. And then, okay, now that we know that, I can tell you, okay, dude, you done goofed here. Or for a different person, hey, you fucking suck, bro. What the hell is this? And then you laugh about it, right? But each person is going to receive that differently. And if you don't have that discussion, it's not going to come across appropriately. And I feel like at an organization like TSM, it's Regi's way of the highway. Like he needs to kind of like release some of the control, hire people to, install a culture, to lead discussions, like because a coach sometimes doesn't always need to be the one leading the team meeting, right? You could have particular people that he's delegating that responsibility to that are more equipped to facilitate what he's trying to get across.
Right, but Regi's always been that guy who wants to be a part of the team because he used to be a pro player and it's his steez or whatever. He's always been forcing himself into TSM rather than just owning TSM and delegating work. That's always been it. And that's why I think he should just fucking sell the team, to be honest, because he's really not cut out to be an organization owner if he's going to be this anal about his team. So I guess to like kind of close out our league talk here, I heard that Bjergson's contract is just about expired. Do you think he'll make a move?
What, like it expires this split or at the end of the split?
At the end of the split.
I think it would be best for Bjergson and his legacy to leave TSM.
I agree, but do you think he will? Do you think he'll go to like E?
No, if he goes anywhere, like actually I've heard talks, but this is before this split, that he was receiving inquiries about his status for Korean teams. Korean teams are interested in him because he is a good player.
Because he is.
The thing is, I don't know if he's Korean good.
I do. I think
and it's hard to say because I don't see enough of his sample size because his team can't get to the fucking big stages. But whenever I see him perform against international mid laners of the Korean or Chinese level, I'm not going to use EU because he got hard smashed in the most recent thing. But he always holds his own and he never loses his lane. And that can be a very valuable component in a team. If you're looking to build a rock in the mid lane, he's a good rock.
He's always been.
He's kind of like what the impact of mid lane is.
Right. I think his mentality and his work ethic, it's the most Korean thing in North America, even past all of our imports. It's Bjergson. Bjergson's work ethic matches every Korean pro team out there. And I
just don't think the language barrier is the thing that would probably keep him in NA.
But I don't think he would be opposed to learning a new language either. He seems like a reasonable fellow. I mean, he already knows 2 languages, so I don't think.
At minimum, I'm sure he knows more. Most of the European players know 3 to 4 languages.
Right, so I don't think it's that big of an issue. But I don't think he's going to leave TSM either. I think he's a big old cuck boy, and he's just going to be shit on in TSM and let Regi drag him into the depths of hell. Agreed?
I think the best thing that TSM could do is to trade him.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough trades that go down in this league. I think that they should trade Bjergson either for cash considerations or like a bunch of talent, and like reboot the franchise. But the problem with that is the fans and like this shitty winning culture that they've ingrained and that we're the best and we're always going to be number 1 and we're going to go places and do things. Like they don't have the ability to hit a reset button, which is why they've struggled these past couple of years because he's constantly trying to get back to the pinnacle. I guess you could say that, the double lift years, even with Wild Turtle, they were having good years. But, the double lift squad, the one that was competitive, that was smashing teams at the world scrims, but not on stage, that kind of level.
Yeah.
That kind of hype. And since he's trying to attain that every single year, the team is failing.
Yeah.
Because he's only looking at that end result instead of being like, instead of taking the Golden Guardians approach, like let's foster this talent and see what we can do. they worked on Death League for 2 years before they decided, okay, you know what? He's pretty good. He can get you to a 500 record, but he can't take you to the next step. But they invested the time to figure this out, right? They gave him tons of starts. They tried different supports, and then they decided, hey, if we really want to take another step, we're going to have to look elsewhere. And then they made the trade for Keith, who I don't know if that's going to actually work.
My
but,
boy!
they're trying it. They're trying it. So, I applaud them for trying, since they've been on a slide recently.
All right. Well, do you have any final words for our first-time listeners?
We could probably talk about League all day.
Yeah, that's why
But we're not going to, because, this is a multi-topic podcast for your therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you want to hear more about any particular topic, feel free to reach out to us and suggest anything.
Yep, I agree. Also, I love you. Thank you for...
You better.
Thank you for listening. It would do me quite the service if you would stick around and listen to future podcasts. For now, the podcast is going to be on YouTube. I do not currently have anything set up, but this is the pilot episode. We will see where it goes. Hopefully, we can get it on iTunes, Spotify, and stuff like that later. But for now, I will just be spamming it to my friends, and eventually we will have our own custom URLs and things to share. But for now, thanks for listening, and have a wonderful night, day, evening, orgasm. Good night.
Yes.
Good shit.